Oh, hello.
Well, here we are live back here in Fight Club for Women, and I'm actually very excited. I've been waiting for you. We pushed you off last week because of technical difficulties, but here we have Laura back this week, and I am very excited about tonight's conversation. And given that it is International Women's Day, I think
I
you're the
know.
perfect guest to have on today to talk about what you're about to talk about. So let
Completely,
me introduce.
completely zonked on that too. I totally forgot that today's International Women's Day. So what a pleasant surprise.
Yes, absolutely. So Laura, you and I had a conversation last week, and after I hung up the phone with you, I first of all I got to tell everybody, Laura and I met. We actually never physically met,
No,
but we've been following each other for many years now. Actually, I
right.
am a personal friend of her cousin, Beth, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and I've been following you, and I was every time I've been following you, I'm like, this is a chick that I want to meet. Like she seems like a really cool chick that somebody I can mesh with. And then after our conversation last week, I literally hung up the phone, and my husband came home from work, and I said, I think I just met my new best friend.
Oh my God.
That's what I said. I said, her and I just talked. We could have probably talked all day if
Yeah.
easily.
And
So
so appropriate too. I mean, I'm a Leo, you're an Aquarius. I mean, you don't get more compatible than that. So how
uh,
amazing, right?
wonderful. I literally like I said, I hung up the phone with you and I was just like, oh wow, this is a girl I can hang out with. This is somebody that we just connected on so many different levels around all every time, it was like excited. Like you just met somebody
Yeah.
new for the first time, you're like, oh, cool, all right. So t- today's topic, and I'm gonna actually let you go right into it. I said something to you on the phone the other day when we were talking, the whole comfort zone thing. And I
Yeah.
literally said, I think, and you laughed at me, and I said, I think I've lived my whole life out of my comfort zone, which most people don't do.
No.
I can say I actually do it, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I just naturally do it. But I want to hear all about what your take on the whole comfort zone thing, on just take it away, girl, because I loved everything you said to me on the phone. So I know that the ladies are going to be very excited to hear what you got up your sleeve right now. So
Yeah. So I think just starting off with talking about what led me to this aha moment. I think when we're younger, we just are just so organic. It's not, we don't even classify it as having fun. We just do it. So think about like when you were really young, and I always have Phoebe from Friends pop into my mind, where it's the one show where she's like, "Do you remember when we were younger and we would just run and just run freely and just have so much fun?" She's like, "Why don't we do that when we're adults?" And then the whole entire show is like kind of, tapping into that thought process. And at one point, here's Phoebe, full grown adult, running down a hill in a park, just being like a kid, and people of course looking at her like she's crazy, but she didn't care. She was just gonna tap into that spirit of hers and just, have fun like she did when she was younger. So it makes me think about that. So when we're younger, we're not thinking about, oh, we're having fun, we're just doing it. But for whatever reason, once we hit, a certain point in our lives, where I guess once we get more responsibilities, having fun is not always on, the forefront. We kind of push it back and say, well, I got more important things to focus on or pay attention to. And especially as we start having families and we just keep on adding more responsibilities to our lives. And so this past July, I was thinking, okay, I'm getting close to my 50th birthday. And some people may say, oh, that's not a big deal. But it was for me. And I sat down and I said to myself, I don't want to treat 50 like a normal birthday. I want to treat 50 very differently. And so I sat down and I wrote down things that I wanted to accomplish in the upcoming year. And some things were very simple to things that were, a little more expansive, and things that I've always wanted to do, but I would always make an excuse or a reason, you know, not to do it. And I think that's what we do to ourselves, especially women. We always think about everybody else, that when it comes time to the things that we like and the things that we want to do, we start to reason it and say, well, I don't have the money for it right now, or I don't have the time. I have more important things to worry about. So we push it away. So I wanted 50 to be different. I sat down, I wrote a very long list. I also gave myself a timeline, because I think sometimes when you write things down, you don't want it to turn into July 1st, not July 1st, January 1st. You want to stay committed to what you're going to do in the upcoming year. So I started off with the low hanging fruit. What can I do that I could incorporate into my daily life and have fun? And so the one thing I've always wanted to do is to learn how to speak Italian. And of course, I'm not going to become fluent in the language in a year's time, but we have to start somewhere, right?
Right.
So I started thinking about how can I incorporate learning Italian into my day to day. I love cooking. So what I started to do is identifying spices and how you would pronounce them in Italian. And so as I'm cooking, I'm grabbing the spices from my spice cabinet, and I'm like, oh, noce moscata, and add that to whatever I'm cooking. And
No.
yeah, and the cool thing about that is you're cooking, which for some people may find, oh, I gotta make dinner again, but I added fun to it. And how I added fun to cooking is I added learning a new language to whatever it is I was cooking by identifying the ingredients in that language. Because remember, in order for you to really master a language, you have to live it, you have to breathe it, you have to be it. And what better way of incorporating a language than through food?
It's a good idea.
We all have to eat, right?
Right.
So I just thought that would be a really cool way of learning the language and also trying new recipes too. Trying things that I wouldn't normally make. So again, here's my list. Started figuring out simple ways of incorporating, more fun into my life, while also along the way learning, oh my gosh, I'm really stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm not doing the same thing I do day in, day out. And so I'm expanding myself. And I have found by incorporating, Italian into my cooking, it was stimulating my creativity. And it got me thinking about other things. And I started talking to other people about it. And they were like, that's such a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think about that. So through my social connections, I started sharing my story, and it inspired them to start, adding something like that into their life as well. So here you go. My list started off with the low hanging fruit. Wanted to start how to learn speaking Italian. How do you do it? By incorporating it into your everyday tasks. And I've been maintaining it. So I go online and I figure out what are some words that I want to learn this week. And I try to add them to my vocabulary. And it's been coming along. And so now one of my dreams, not so much something I'm going to do in this upcoming year, but definitely in the upcoming years, is I want to travel to Italy, not only to experience the food, but also the culture. And I think if you understand the language to a degree, you're going to have a much better experience. So for me, this is snowballing into now thinking, okay, how can I add more adventure to my life? I want to travel more. Well, I want to go to Italy. And now if I finally get there, I'm going to have a more well-rounded experience because I'm going to have a better understanding of the language. So there you go.
Which I
So
think And that's how I said to you, I said, "Well, you're going to Italy, I'm going with you."
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we should make it
I actually have a friend
a
that
whole
is,
entire flight club endeavor,
oh, I'm telling you,
with
I
get
well,
everybody who wants to go. And but if you're going to keep up with me, you got to start learning how to
oh,
speak
well,
Italian.
I
So at least learn your spices, at least that, right?
well, I told you I was supposed to go to Italy, my unfortunately, my father passed away the day we were supposed to take off and go to Italy. It was
Mm-hmm.
very traumatic, and I was like, "Of all the days, Dad," my Italian father nonetheless too. I said, "How could you on the day
Yeah.
we were supposed to go to Italy for 2 weeks?" But
Well, I think, frame that really quick. Think about when you travel. A
mhm,
lot of the times we think we're just traveling. We don't think about all of the positive benefits that come along with that. You expose yourself, even if you're traveling somewhere within the United States, you're still exposing yourself to a new culture, a new community, new people. You're exposed to new foods. You know, we're very fortunate here on the East Coast because we have such a variety of foods to eat from or experience. But as you go into other parts of the United States, you get to experience things that are a little more regional to that area. So again, traveling provides, so many benefits, and it's also helping you to step out of your comfort zone. And so that's pretty cool. So, just looking at traveling is another great way of adding more fun to your life. And it doesn't have to be Italy. It could be going into New York City and going to food places that you've always wanted to go to. So you can really have fun, make an adventure out of anything. Heck, you can go into Philadelphia and, experience different pizza places if pizza's your thing, right?
this is true. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, there's that guy on Instagram. That's what he does. He travels all over the place and he tries different types of pizza and he rates them, and he now made a whole entire
It's
career out of it.
yeah.
So you never know what could possibly happen, right?
Yeah, this is true. This is true. So where, other than Italy, is there, any other places that you're, got your sights on?
Um, Italy more so just because, again, the food, the culture. It is one place that I have not been. I was very fortunate when I was younger through my career. I did a lot of traveling. And I think that's where a lot of this stems from.
Mhm.
Just, constantly on the road. I was always going to different parts in the United States, Canada, the Caribbean, and even France. So I had a lot of those experiences. And then from there, was doing that up until 2019. And then obviously the pandemic occurred and, put us all in this holding pattern. So I think that's the other thing too. For a lot of us now, we really want to live life. And that's another reason why a lot of us are not making excuses anymore and we're doing it
Yeah.
because of the fact that, we had to put our lives on hold for a while. And we're still not completely 100%, but we're definitely in a better place than we were back in 2020.
And I think a
And
lot it forced a lot of women to, or a lot of people in general, to redefine themselves.
yeah.
That staying at home, was like it put everybody on, like, notice, like, "Okay, now what do you
Oh,
really wanna do? Life is short. Like, is everybody doing what they really wanna do, or are you
people
doing what you're
people have
passionate about?"
made people have made so many shifts and changes. I know we're talking about travel,
Mhm.
but you have had people completely change careers.
Yep.
You've had people who always loved living in the city now living on a farm somewhere in the Midwest. Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it
getting
really just
chickens
comes
too.
down to you.
I started a garden, and said I'm getting
Yeah.
chickens. I was like, I have become more a minimalist, like, really just
Well, yeah,
downside.
because now you focus on the things that are more important. You realize what is important. You realize that your friends are important, your family is important, your health, your well-being. And the one thing that makes me so happy to see that we're really actively talking about is mental health. And that's where fun really comes into play.
Yeah.
Freud says that to have a healthy, balanced life, you need three key things. You need love, you need work, and you need play. And they're the three key things that you need to survive and do well as a human being. And during the pandemic, a lot of us were unable to really fulfill a lot of that in a
Yeah.
complete manner. And so again, now we're redefining. So yeah, if if you focus on love, if you focus on work, if you focus on play, which is fun, then you're basically leading a complete life. And you just have to keep on adding to those buckets to make yourself feel fulfilled. And that's the other thing. You know, what you may find fun, I may not, and vice versa.
This is
So you really have to define what you enjoy individually. Even like, for example, if you're married, there are things that you can do together as a couple that you enjoy and that you find fun, but you also have to have that alone time and figure out what you enjoy doing as an individual and what benefits you. Even if you have children, yes, you want to focus on them, make sure they're good, they're okay, but you
balance.
have to come back and you have to feed your soul too. And again, going back to us as women, we sometimes tend to neglect, and we have to make sure that we focus on those three elements for ourselves as well, as much as our, significant others and our children and other family members,
Yeah, as women, I
and
think
encourage them to do the damn same thing too. Like, hey,
this is
I'm
true.
having more fun, you should have more fun too.
So, do you have a full rounded bucket list of things that you want to do, or is it
So
spontaneity your thing? Like, I'm a very spontaneous, like up and go. Like, I don't plan anything. I'm probably the most disorganized person you will ever meet, and I just fly by the seat of my pants. Like, however I go, I go.
that's a good question. And I would have to say it's mixed. There are times where I can just pick up, go, and do whatever. But there are times too, especially when something's a little more, um, there's more travel involved. You definitely want to put a little more thought into it, have a little much of an agenda in place. So that way, you have some level of structure, especially if you're going to a new place.
Right.
But you do leave a little space to explore and, to do things that are not part of your, checklist for the most part. So, yes, absolutely. But I think, again, going back to what you define as fun as an individual. So what is that? That's the question that we should all be asking ourselves right now, and not that you're going to have the answer during these 45 minutes that we're together. But at least I'm planting a seed for you to start thinking, how do I like having fun? And for a lot of people, that could be a very challenging question, because you know what your friends and family like to do for fun, but what do you as an individual?
That's a good question because I'm sitting here thinking about like, wait a minute, what
Mhm.
do I do that is fun? That it's not involves other people, like my grandchildren, being around my grandchildren. Is that fun, or is that just a family? Like that's just the love part and all that. Like I'm trying to think, what is it that I do that I can say is fun?
So
I
start thinking about that. I think it's great for us to take inventory on what we find fun, because again, prior to the pandemic, maybe there were certain things that we thought were fun then that we don't find fun now,
you
because
know
we've added new things, new experiences to our lives, or we've incorporated new friends into our lives. Maybe you started a new hobby that you didn't do prior to the pandemic. And not that I'm trying to focus on the pandemic, but I'm using it as,
it's
a
a catalyst.
market. I'm using it as a marcation, so that way you can see a level of difference.
Yeah,
How you were living before and how you're living now, how you're living presently. So I really think start thinking about that list. What are things that you like to do as an individual that you consider fun?
I
And
just
start,
got one. I got one. I just did it yesterday, as a matter of fact. I love refurbishing furniture,
there you
and I
go.
love finding my husband's ready to strangle me yesterday. I got this beautiful, table and 5 chairs for free off of Marketplace. The girl put it up on, and probably within 16 minutes of her posting it, I'm like, is this still available?" My husband literally walks in the door last night, and I said, "We have to go pick up some furniture." He's like, "What?" Well,
See,
and I
that's
actually
awesome.
underestimate. Like, I found, and my husband doesn't even, question it anymore. Like, literally, he was cracking up. He's like, "What are you doing?" And as soon as we pulled up at the house, he saw the set. He was like, "Oh my god, this is for
But,
free." And I'm
but
like,
think about that for a second. Just ponder that for a second. When we were growing up, they would always advertise yard sales in the papers.
right.
Now you can find out what's going on in your general area just by going to Google or going to, Facebook to see what kind of events are coming up. And now you could go to so many different sales, even online
Oh,
sales, where
it's
you
just
can
amazing.
find more stuff to refurbish, which is
As they say, one man's trash is another woman's treasure.
yeah,
And I love painting. So to me, that's, that I answered the question. But I
yeah.
find, refurbishing furniture, painting, doing things like that, staging homes. I love that, decorating, that kind of stuff. So yeah,
But
that's,
now think about, okay, you're talking about fun on an individual basis, right?
yeah.
So now how can you have more fun with the people that you love? So what can you all do together that maybe you've never done before, or maybe they were things that you've talked about but never really put it into motion? So that, going back to Freud, so you have those three elements. You have the play, you have the work, and you have the love. And when I see love, I think of all of the people that I
Mhm.
completely adore in my life, and what can I do to incorporate them more into
It's,
what I do, right? And then work. A lot of us, when we think of work, we think, oh, I got to go to work.
right.
But there are some people out there who find ways of incorporating a little fun into, their employment.
Mhm.
And you even see it now where there are a lot of businesses that are trying to add activities into, a work schedule, so that way it adds an element of fun for the employees, so it helps to break up the week, and it makes it a little more engaging for everybody, so that way you don't always feel like you're just gotta grind.
Right. Yeah.
You're finding ways of having a little bit of fun at work as well, which is, I think, is important.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is when we got purchased our our house on the river. I That's where I like to have fun with groups of people. And the grand, like, everybody can have fun there. We can kayak, we can fish, we can just blow up a big raft and just sit out in the river all day long, just shooting shit with each other and having a good grand old time, absolutely doing nothing but sitting on a raft. Like, we have a blast out there. So you don't have to. Like, I tell people, like, make your home your oasis if you can. I am actually a homebody, believe it or not. People think that I'm very social and I'm out there and all over the place, but actually, no, I'm not. I'm a homebody. I've created my space to be very inviting for me, my husband. Like, we have our little
Well,
routine.
see, there you go. So the love element, and ways that you can incorporate activities and fun, with those relationships. So yes, your river house is a perfect example of that. And I also think of Alicia, who was on a couple of weeks ago. She has her main job during the day, but she's also incorporating other opportunities into her life that she enjoys. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
creating an income for her, but it's also adding a level of fun because, like us, she likes to cook.
yeah.
And that's one of the things that she focuses on once she leaves her 9 to 5. So I think that's the great thing about the world that we live in right now, is that we do have so many opportunities in front of us, and there's so many possibilities. And that's the other cool thing about having fun is you get to enrich social connections. So, for example, I talked about incorporating the Italian while I'm cooking, and then I was telling a friend of mine what I was doing, and she was just like, "That's crazy, but that's fun." And I'm like, "I know." And so she's always wanted to learn how to speak French, and now she's kind of doing something similar, and she's been keeping me posted with her progress. So, by you having fun, you you boost your energy. You enhance your energy as an individual. And it's almost like when you haven't seen people in a while and they look at you and they're like, "You've done something different. Did you get a new haircut? Did you color your hair differently? Are you wearing a new lipstick?" No, I'm just having fun. And I know that sounds so silly, but by you having that abundance of fun, it completely shifts your energy,
Yeah.
and you start connecting with people that you may never have connected with before, just by having more fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
so you have your love aspect, which is your friends, your family. How can you have more fun with them? How can you have more fun at work? Obviously not within reason. You usually have to get your job done. But then also too, for you yourself as an individual, what are certain things that you can start working on and start incorporating to enrich yourself, and just to add more value to who you are as an individual. And again, by doing this, you're going to really surprise yourself. You are going to start stepping out of that comfort zone, and fear is no longer going to be in the driver's seat. Fear is going to take a back seat and eventually completely dissipate. So by having this fun and finding ways of incorporating it in all aspects of your life, you're going to be really surprised how much you start stepping out of your comfort zone. So I'm going to give you another example because you started talking about it earlier on in the conversation.
Mhm.
So during the pandemic, I started really looking into my family's history. Now, when I was growing up, I was always told that I was Irish and German, and that's it. There was nothing else to it. So, anyhow, I started going on Ancestry. I did the DNA test, found out, big surprise, my DNA and how it was divided up. But I started connecting with people. So I started connecting with people online and started learning more and more about my family. And I discovered 6 months ago, a little bit after my birthday, um, I have this whole entire line to my family that I had no idea about. And it's this line that I discovered that I'm part English, which nobody ever talked about while I was growing up. I mean, this was completely like out of the blue. And so as I started researching this line, I discovered that we go back as far as the 900s.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, when you look at it, your head is spinning and you're like, how come nobody knew this? How come nobody talked about this? This is unbelievable. So to me, it was like a soap opera. Every day I was done work, I couldn't wait to get online to start doing more research, doing more digging.
Mhm.
And again, this is what I find fun. Somebody else would say, "Oh my gosh, that is so
I find
boring,"
that fun too.
right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, "Oh my gosh, like how there's a show you love to watch? Well, guess what? This was my show." So I would come home, open up my computer, go on to Ancestry, and start researching. Well, and again, it's a lot of work, but I enjoy it. And
Mhm.
so I found out this past week that Winston Churchill is a cousin of mine. I mean, come
Wow.
on. Is that not bonkers?
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
mean, so again, this is something that I've invested my time and energy into. I find it fun, believe it or not. And I've been uncovering all of these great details. And guess what? You start calling people along the way because you hit these roadblocks. So I
Mhm.
start calling museums, I start calling different organizations. and people love talking to you about this stuff. And so you start meeting new people,
Yeah.
people that you would never have met before. And so that's another thing that I've added to my life in my 50th year. How cool is that?
That is pretty cool. The genealogy thing is it's like, do you remember back in the day when you got mail? Well, I every
Mhm.
time that remember that sound, you can hear the computer, you got mail. Now I get you got a new cousin.
Yeah.
Every time I turn around, I got like 4,000 40 I think like 4,300 cousins like it from the Italian side, they got the Irish side, and I keep wondering like, am I gonna show up a new sibling is gonna pop up like, oh geez, we gotta, I know so many people who have dived into this, or we're finding family members that we didn't even know existed. So there's there's the pluses to this, and there's the element of surprise, but I love the fact that
But even think about that. Just by me doing that, I'm learning about history, because now what I do is when I get into a period of time where there are the way a name
mm,
is spelled, or a region that I'm not familiar with, I now go online and I research the region. So now I'm
yeah,
learning geography, I'm learning history, I'm learning more about my family and how certain things are repetitive. So on my mom's side of the family, I found that I come from a long line of school teachers. And so they ended up going to school in the late 1800s, which is now known as Bloomsburg University. So I contacted the university and I talked to the archivist there, and I said, you know, what can you find out about my family? And so they got back to me and they provided me with all of this great information, even what they paid to go to school there at the time, which was, oh my gosh, unbelievable. It was so inexpensive.
oh
I
wow,
mean,
so
if
really
you look at
inspired.
like what we spend on university now in
Yeah,
comparison
yeah,
to the late 1800s, but then to have that record and say, oh my gosh, like this was my family. Like I am an extension
right.
of these people. So again, you're learning, and that's another great thing about, having fun, stepping out of your comfort zone, and being exposed to things that you wouldn't normally be, exposed to.
Yeah,
So
like I
yeah,
said,
so
it has
learning a language, learning about my family history, they're two of the key things that I find fun. And then, just trying to figure out like local adventures, like places that I haven't been within, within a day's trip. So, we're so fortunate where we live. We can either drive
mhm.
or take a train. And that's the other thing I love doing. I love trains. I went last year, I went from Trenton all the way out to Pittsburgh. And it was a long train ride. But once, you're on the train, you're going across the state, it's just unbelievable how beautiful it is out
Oh,
there. Then once you get to
yeah,
Pittsburgh,
people say
it's a
people,
beautiful city.
yeah,
So yeah, again, it really all depends on you as an individual, and what you find fun. And my wish for everybody that's watching tonight is start creating your list. And then what I would love to see happen is, connect with me and let me know within 30, 60 days things that you've incorporated and how they've made a shift or a change in your life. Because I can honestly tell you, I'm not the same person I was back in July 2022. I mean, now, just using my family history as an example, it has given me a completely, totally different perspective on life. So,
it's your story, so it could explain a lot of things that you never, like, you don't realize the generational stuff that's passed down to
yeah.
us, beliefs, things that that
But just for me, it's not so much that, it's the new people that I've met along the way.
yeah.
I've met people in so many different states. I've met people even locally. So, for me, it's more of the social, engagement that has been enriched for me as an individual.
Now, were you born and raised here in Pennsylvania?
So I was born in Philadelphia,
Okay.
and I lived in Atlanta for a while, and then from Atlanta, I moved up back here on the East Coast, but I've been here in New Jersey, since the early 2000s. So half my life Philadelphia, a blip in Atlanta, and the rest is
You're a Jersey girl now.
I'm a Jersey girl now, at least for right now. At
Okay.
least for right now. There's a part of me that would love to go back to Atlanta just because of the weather. But yeah, so that's my story, and I'm just adding more things on to my list, because again, I'm not the same person I was back in July
I say to people, let me reintroduce
22.
myself. I'm a totally different. I think I'm a totally different person I was last week.
Yeah.
Like I'm changing so much that I don't even recognize me anymore.
So yeah, that's my wish for everybody that's watching. Start creating that list. How can you have fun as an individual? How can you have more fun with your family and friends? And how can you have more fun at work? There's something as simple as, starting a book club. I know that sounds,
Yeah.
silly, but, you could build new connections with people at work just by, doing something that's out of the ordinary. So create your list, get back to me within 30, 60 days and share some of your findings, because I'm going to tell you right now, just by having fun, you're going to step out of your comfort zone and you're going to feel differently. I feel more creative. I feel more socially connected. I've been learning. So, like brain health, brain stimulation. Um, they're just some of the highlights, but there's so many more. And I think it's wild. I think it's absolutely, if
Do you think a part of
why
this
didn't somebody
because of
tell
our
me this
age?
when I was in my 20s?
Yeah.
Like that, they teach you all these other things in school, and they should definitely teach you about, having, that balance in life. And again, we are getting there because we are talking about mental health more now than ever. And I'm so, happy about that. And we have to keep up the conversation. And so what Drew's showing right now is what I do during the day. I'm a marketing consultant. And what I like to say about that is, in essence, I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I love writing. That's one of the things I'm very passionate about. And I love public speaking. That's the other thing that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, we spoke.
That's what I do during the day. And then once I take that hat off, I'm always trying to have, incorporate ways of having more fun, because, we can't take life for granted.
No.
We
No.
can't. It's a
Well, when
gift.
I was talking to you on the phone, I said to you, and this is before I really understood what your background was and this and that. And what I said to you was, you have such a way of speaking. You're very calming.
Oh, thank you.
Very calming, and you can see how I'm like, I'm like,
It's that long line
and
of school
I always seem to
teachers.
connect very well with people that kind of ground me, which is nice. It's I gravitate to people like you because you're calming. And you're very articulate, and I am like, oh wow, this explains that. You said you're passionate about being a speaker and things like that. I'm like, I could listen to you all day long.
So now think about it. Like that's what we were talking about before, the yin and the yang, the I Ching. So, that's what we want to surround ourselves with in life too, is people that are complimentary and, that
Yeah.
help us step out of our comfort zone. So yes, there are things that we can do ourselves to accomplish that, but it's also surrounding yourself with the right people. And not to sound, I don't want to sound like, a sound bite on social media, but there is some
I
truth
know
to it.
there
There's
is.
definitely some truth to surrounding yourself with people that um, they
I
help
say
they,
like-minded.
they help you extract
Like-minded.
who you are.
Yeah, I
They
say
help you
like-minded
extract.
people. I tend to gravitate to people that I think that's what the pandemic did for me. It exposed me to connecting to people that we share the same core values. We don't have to
Yeah,
agree on everything, but I find now that I'm
I
connecting more
agree.
with people that we have the same core values.
I agree.
That makes that's where I'm at now. You know, like I said, we don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to agree on every topic, but the core values, I find that that's important to me now. So I'm surrounding myself with people, and I have a lot of I'm surrounded by a lot of people, but in my 50s, I'm 56 now. I got some years on you. So, and I have a feeling that it's like once I hit 45, pushed 50, I start to really look back and reevaluate everything. And what am I
Yeah.
doing? And I have less years in front of me than I do behind me now, with that old saying. So it's like, what am I doing now from this point on, moving forward in my life? Where am I?
That's a really key point that you just mentioned, and that is, when you are younger, your area of focus is much different. As you do hit certain milestones, you realize that you really, I mean, not that we should ever take it for granted, but as we do progress in age, we definitely don't want to take anything for granted. And, making sure that we're doing things that fulfill us,
Yeah,
and and be okay with that. It's okay for us to spend time alone and do things that make us feel whole. And
yeah,
that's what fun
that's
does.
it. Yeah,
Fun really helps you feel whole. And the more you do things that you find fun, the big thing that I find in our society is like, oh, when you're having a hard day, the first thing people want to do is grab a glass of wine. Really?
yeah.
You can't think of something else to do besides grabbing that glass of wine? And I'm not, listen, I
Exactly.
like my glass of wine, but I feel as though that shouldn't be the default. I think that there are other things that you can do to help break up your week and your day to day.
I
So,
find reading. I am like a very, and I've always been an avid reader, but I am hooked on the Kindle. Like,
but that's
and
great.
if you read my books, it's like my music. You know, the music I listen to. One minute I'm listening to Andre Bocelli, and the next minute I could be listening to AC/DC. Like it doesn't. There's no. And
But
my
again,
reading,
remember, everybody's idea of fun, it varies.
yeah,
And that's why, Drew, I keep on loving the fact that he keeps on popping it up.
yeah,
Write that list, write that list. But writing a list helps to hold you accountable.
yeah,
And so when you write that list, keep it on your refrigerator, because when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, yeah, I need to remember to have some fun
yeah.
today. This is what I'm going to do. You could even have a little extra fun with it. Things that you want to do, write them down on like little pieces of paper, and then fold them up and put them into a bowl and say, all right, how am I going to have fun this week? And then stick your
Right.
hand in
Yeah,
the bowl
I
and
can
pull
see
something out
creative
and say,
marriage ideas.
I'm gonna go bowling with friends this week. I mean, I don't know, whatever. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
talking head here. But
yeah.
yeah, there's so many ways.
Yes.
That's the
Well,
most.
like I said to you when we were talking, I said, people talk about you having a bucket list, and there was one mentor that I know Becky's on tonight, and
Becky.
yep, I seen her. She commented it a little bit ago, but she's out there. Um, our old mentor talked about having a lived list instead of having a bucket list. Talk about the things that you have already done.
Yeah.
Where are the places you already have gone? And when you start to think about that, like I've been a lot of places. I've when I joke around and say, oh, it's not my first rodeo. Well, it really isn't, because I've been a lot of places. There's a lot of places I still want to go. There's a lot of things I still want to do. But I gotta say that it's pretty cool to be able to look back and say, all right, I've been there. I went there. And I guess that's part of the I've been living out of my comfort zone probably my whole life. And sometimes
It's unbelievable when you step out of that comfort zone, because then you feel you're living authentically.
and fearless. That's the key. I said,
Well, that's what I said earlier. Remember,
fearless. I live
you
fearless.
need to take fear and say, you're not in the driver's seat anymore. You're going to go back there, and eventually we're going to get
Yeah,
rid of you altogether. And that's where fun is a great distraction. As we've talked about so far, it provides a lot of benefits. It slows down the aging process, it stimulates creativity, it reduces stress, It helps to enhance social connections. It boosts brain health. Believe it or not, it even impacts heart health as well.
Oh,
So there are a lot of benefits. And again, I really look forward to hearing from everybody. And my email address, which I think Drew can put up, it's my full name. It's Laura Mary Cummins at gmail.com, and would love to hear, how this impacts you within the next 30, 60 days. And then maybe that would be a great time to regroup
oh,
and,
well, we're definitely
and
going to
have
talk
people
again.
share their personal feedback. I think that would be phenomenal. Thanks, Drew.
Yeah, and I have a feeling you and I are going to be having some fun this summer.
Mm.
We're going to be. Do you remember Where's Waldo or Flat Stanley? We're going to be bringing. Do you remember Flat Stanley, the little paper
Oh,
guy
yeah,
take
yeah.
around and they have to take pictures of Flat Stanley here? We're going to have to create a little flat person and take them along our
We'll
travels
have
with
to
us.
come up with some type of
A little flat
icon
female,
that we
a
could
little
use. Yeah.
flat female. Yeah, so yeah, that would be fun. But I have a feeling that you and I are going to be doing some putting some miles under our feet because we definitely like a lot of this.
I just saw that. That was cute, Drew. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody have any comments, like things that they're already doing that they find fun and have provided some positive benefits?
Share your fun with us. There you go. Amen. My happy place is home, and I love my pool area. Who is that? It's a Facebook user, but we don't see who the name is.
Oh, the pool area is always, and then you can really turn
I'm
that
wondering if
into a
that's
nice oasis.
I'm wondering if that's Lisa who just wrote that, or Donna. Gardening,
Gardening. That's on my list, Becky. Roller skating. Oh my gosh, I used to roller skate like a whiz when I was a kid, and I want to get back to that.
Roller-rama on a Friday night.
What was
Donna,
that
we
one?
know you love the beach. Donna lives in.
Oh yeah.
She bounces back and forth between here
I
and
thought volleyball on
Florida.
the beach,
Yeah,
or yoga on the beach.
yoga
That,
on the beach. Well, Alicia's a yoga instructor, so we're going to have her come on board and give some lessons.
that would be so much fun if
Yeah.
we go to the Jersey Shore, and we have like a little retreat, and we do yoga, and then find a place to
Think of
do
something.
some
We could do a
volleyball, and then
yoga.
also roller skating, right, Becky?
Yeah, there you go. What happens in Vegas is now on YouTube. There we go.
That's true.
We could do a retreat in my river house. There we go. I could.
We could turn around and just tell people no phones allowed when we go on these retreats, so that way everything.
Yes. Yeah. What happens there stays there. God knows,
But nobody really
for
know.
the internet because I'd probably be in trouble right now.
But yeah, I mean, it's amazing, and
Yeah.
again, it's something so simple.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
simple.
fun, Yeah.
So that's what I learned so far in my 50th year of life, and I felt like I wasn't having enough of it, and that's why I became a fun seeker, and I'm still learning as I'm going along,
I
which is
see a hashtag fun
pretty
seeker.
awesome. Huh?
I said I see a hashtag fun seeker.
Oh, I know. Well, I can't. I can't take responsibility for that. I didn't coin that. I think, matter of fact. Well, there you go. Thanks, Joe. I think Oprah. We have to thank Oprah for that one. I think that was one of the words that she came up with, is fun seeker.
I like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
I mean, I already had it in my head, but it just so happened that I saw something that she had written, and it confirmed what I was already thinking. So I got the Oprah stamp of approval through her
do you
article.
think it just came to my mind here? Do you think that it's because of our age bracket that we are thinking like this? Like when you're in your 30s, you're not thinking about, like you think you got all this time left. And then all of a sudden you turn like 45, 50 and you realize that, wow, I got, what have I done with my life? Where am I going?
Yeah.
And the
I think it's everybody's different. I mean,
yeah,
I know personally myself, like in my 30s, I was working really hard, and I was a single parent. So raising my son, working, and that was my focus. I didn't really have a lot of time for fun. And again, I could have, but I would talk myself out of it. I would reason it, like, oh, there's more important things I should be focusing on, not that. And
Yeah.
so for me, where this shift started to happen, which was back in 19, I lost both of my parents at very young ages. And I really felt, oh my gosh, like, were they happy? Did they have fun? You know, like these are all the things that start swirling around in your head. Um, and then you start thinking to yourself, okay, I got to take things seriously now. Like,
Yeah.
yes, you know, so your mind does shift
Yeah.
and you don't want to take things for granted. And you really want to live life as fully as possible. And again, everybody's different. Everybody has different experiences. I mean, I know people that start having kids in their late 40s. So they're in their late 40s raising
Yeah.
kids. So
Yeah.
everybody's different. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think we do hit a certain age and uh, the light bulb goes
Yeah.
off and we have the ahas and yeah,
I find
definitely.
myself telling my kids all the time, and I have, adult children that are 37 down to 31, and constantly saying, "Don't blink, don't blink." And
Yeah.
even though I'm only 19 years older than my oldest child, there's not, the age bracket is we're still close in age, but don't blink because
Yeah.
it comes up
But
quick.
you know what? That's a really good point that you make.
Yeah.
Um, Look at kids. I talked about that earlier on the conversation. Think of kids and think how they just naturally know how to have fun. They just naturally know how to have fun, and they do such a great job of it. And that's why a lot of adults, especially parents, grandparents, we tap into that. Like
Oh,
whatever they're having fun with, we try to get on board with it. And then we always talk about, oh, I loved, when they were this age, and oh, remember this. And so it's the fun elements that we
I think
that we
that's
remember.
the best part of being a grandparent is being able to jump in and get at their level at all times and get
Yeah.
ready on the play. And I'm not here to
But
disappoint.
even with your adult kids, there
Yeah,
are things that you do together that you find fun.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, it's not the same like when they were younger, but it's a different
Different
format.
level of fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
again, our three areas are our work, our love, and our play, which is fun. And those are the three things that we have to focus on to feel complete and
It's a nice
to feel
balance.
whole.
Nice balance. I like that.
Exactly. This was great.
I
And
love that.
every time I'm on a radio show or a podcast, you always think 45 minutes. What?
Yeah.
And it goes by like that.
As I said, we talked for 2 hours the other day on the phone. I'm like,
Oh
we're gonna
no,
get.
we're definitely chitty chatters. We could
Yeah,
definitely talk the paint off the wall.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I am thrilled that you came on tonight, and you know you're coming back again. So
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh,
gonna
we have
make my
a ton of
list. I'm gonna really sit down and think about the fun thing. Like I always thought that I was a lot of fun, but maybe I'm not. I need to think about that. But I like
absolutely.
the idea, like you said, getting out there and exploring and doing different things. The language thing is something that I wanted to do too. So you checked a
You
lot of
should
boxes.
honestly, it's hysterical when I'm cooking, I say everything out loud, and my son's like, "Oh my God, like this is crazy." But you know what? I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
So, and again, when you're learning a language, you have to live it, you have to
What's
breathe it.
your best word
And
in Italian?
yeah.
What's your
So,
best favorite word, food word in Italian?
you know what? I go back to what I said earlier, which means nutmeg. It's noce moscata. And that's the other thing I try to practice too, is like where you place the emphasis as well. So yeah. So now when I go to my spice cabinet, I'm like, ooh, there's, and oh, saffron, and you just have a blast. You
I'm
can
gonna,
have fun. You can have fun doing anything.
yeah.
But I know we're hitting the end of this conversation. This was a blast.
Thank
Drew, thank you, my friend. You are an excellent MC.
Yes.
And Roseanne, as always, like
Wait,
last week,
oh yeah.
we know how to talk.
What's it? Give
Ciao,
me
Bella.
ciao, Bella.
Ciao,
Well, thank
Bella.
you again, and I'm sure we're gonna be talking on the side after this. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much, and you
Thank
gave
you, everybody, for attending. Thank you.
yes, absolutely. So
All right. Be well.
be well.